You're watching Global Toronto. This is Global News at 5:30. You're watching Global Toronto. This is Global News at 5:30.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Farah Nasser.
I'm Alan Carter. T-minus 1 day and counting.
Just over 24 hours from now, we're going to have a new government.
Let's shift now to the NDP in their last-ditch effort to regain some momentum. Mark Carcasol's with Andrea Horwath. And Mark, what are you hearing today?
Well, Alan, we're all wrapped up for today, but the NDP have made 29 stops over the last 3 days trying to get that message out. Today, they focused on the GTA, an area which, as you've mentioned, could be the area of the province that plays king or queen maker in this election. Aside from one stop in Brampton to decorate cupcakes, meet with supporters, and boost local candidates, Horwath's bus focused mainly on the city of Toronto today, with 2 stops in Scarborough, 1 in North York, and 1 in York. It's fitting, given an ongoing situation in Toronto that will require the attention of the next government at Queen's Park, whomever forms it. City officials here are working on plans to implement photo radar in elementary school zones to keep speeds down, keep kids safer. But to make that legal, the province would need to enact specific legislation. This is where municipal politics comes into this election. We asked Horwath what she would do if she were elected premier or leader of the official opposition.
There's no doubt that there needs to be safety in school zones. Parents and children should be safe when kids are being picked up and dropped off from school. This is legislation that has been debated at Queen's Park. There's no reason to hold it up, and if it's something that Mr. Tory wants to see implemented in communities around Toronto, I'm certainly prepared to be a partner in that.
Now, with the Liberals conceding defeat last weekend, this is essentially a 2-horse race, and Andrea Horwath has spent the last 3 days trying to make a clear distinction between her and Doug Ford. She is clearly trying to target voters who are still undecided and voters who would have voted Liberal but now may be looking for another home after Wynn's announcement last weekend. We will tell you at 6 o'clock how she's reacting to the latest Global News poll by Ipsos. Back to you.
Okay, Mark Carcasol with the building everyone wants behind him, Queen's Park. Thank you.
You're watching Global Toronto. This is Global News at 6.
And Andrea Horwath right now is the leader of the third party at Queen's Park. But 24 hours from now, she could be premier or she could be leader of the official opposition. I spoke with the NDP leader today about her campaign.
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you too, Alan.
You probably need coffee.
Cappuccino, please.
I'll have a cappuccino too as well, please. Can we pay for a couple of cappuccinos?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on credit just like most of your promises.
Okay, that's a deal.
How you feeling 1 day to go?
You know, I feel really great. We've run a campaign that was positive, that was hopeful.
What do you say to those voters out there? And our polling suggests there's a lot of them. I don't like any of my 3 choices.
Well, you know, it is a big decision, there's no doubt. At this point, the day before Election Day, it's clearly between Mr. Ford and me. People want to stop Ford. They need to vote NDP. I mean, it's that stark.
Right now, there's a advertising campaign online that says you're going to raise taxes on gas by 35 cents a liter. I'm sure you've seen it.
I actually saw it for the first time just the other night. It's absolutely not true. It's an absolute lie. And you know, we've seen a lot of that. We've seen a lot of lies. We've seen a lot of mudslinging. We've seen a lot of negativity. And you know what?
From all sides, to be fair.
But you know what? We've tried to also be the party that's bringing forward ideas that make life better for people.
By voting Liberal, you can keep the next government, Conservative or NDP, accountable to you.
I think that Kathleen Wynne gave up the fight against Ford and his cuts. I'm not giving up that fight, and I think that it's a dangerous game to play, because what she's saying to people is she would rather be the one with the power at Queen's Park by suggesting to people that the minority government's the best thing.
The only thing that would be worse, and it'd be 10 times worse, would be an NDP government. Yeah. It would be an absolutely nightmare, economic nightmare for this province.
A majority Doug Ford government, would you take that as a personal failure?
You know, I'm going to wait to see what happens tomorrow. Whatever decision the voters make is the right decision because it's their government, and I'm going to respect it.
Fair. Cheers.
Andrea Horwath, could she pull off a June surprise and win tomorrow's election? She, of course, has her fingers crossed. The polls aren't quite pointing that way. Mark Carcasole is with the NDP campaign that's wrapped up for the evening, and he's in front of the Pink Palace there, Queen's Park.
That's right, Farah. As you mentioned earlier, this is the building that everybody wants to work in, the big premier seat that everybody wants. And Andrea Horwath has managed to stay on topic, stay on message this week, while her opponents have been the subject of various controversies throughout the week. Horwath has been crisscrossing southwestern Ontario, adding about 1,200 kilometers to the odometer on her tour buses. She's gone from Sarnia to Scarborough. But despite all the whistle stops, handshaking, coffee talk, ice cream buying, and cupcake decorating, it appears she's still having trouble making a dent in the 905 regions with voters there. A new poll for Global News by Ipsos Reid shows a double-digit lead for the Doug Ford PCs in the cities and towns surrounding Toronto. Numbers that, if they hold up tomorrow, would give the PCs a majority government. We asked Horwath if, despite all her work this week, 29 stops in 3 days, the improvements in the polls, if that's at all discouraging.
The most important number is the number that comes tomorrow when the people make their final decision. And what I'm still hearing each and every day, even up to today, is people who are excited about what our plan is. Everything that we're hearing is that people are excited about voting NDP and changing Ontario for the better.
Now, given the timing of that poll, it's only fitting that the NDP's media team sent out a press release sometime this afternoon warning residents of the GTA that they say cuts made by Doug Ford, if he's premier, would cost the region 60,000 jobs. Doug Ford is obviously their main target now. Horwath has two hopes, essentially, if she wants to make up that ground in the 905. She's got to hope that either undecided voters will decide to swing her way, or that previous Liberal voters may now change their minds with Wynn's concession over last weekend and will vote NDP instead. Back to you.
All right, Mark, thank you so much.
You're watching Global Toronto. This is Global News at 11.
The NDP appears poised to gain a substantial number of seats in the legislature tomorrow. But will it be enough to pave a path for Andrea Horwath to the Premier's office? Mark Carcasole has that part of the story.
While her opponents have been the subjects of various controversies over the last few days, Andrea Horwath has managed to stay on topic as she's crisscrossed southwestern Ontario from Sarnia to Scarborough, adding about 1,200 kilometers on her campaign bus. Now, despite all the whistle stops, handshaking, coffee talk, ice cream buying, and cupcake decorating, it appears she's still having trouble making a dent in the 905 regions. The new poll for Global News by Ipsos Reid shows a double-digit lead for the Doug Ford PCs in the cities and towns surrounding Toronto. Numbers that, if they hold up, would give the PCs a majority government. We asked Horwath if, despite all her work this week, 29 stops in 3 days, if that's at all discouraging.
The most important number is the number that comes tomorrow when the people make their final decision. And what I'm still hearing each and every day, even up to today, is people who are excited about what our plan is. Everything that we're hearing is that people are excited about voting NDP and changing Ontario for the better.
Now, given the timing of this poll, it seems fitting that Horwath's team would put out a press release this afternoon warning GTA residents. They say that Doug Ford's cuts would cost the area about 60,000 jobs. Now, Horwath has two options, essentially, if she wants to make up that lead. Hopes, really. She has to hope that undecided voters up to this point will vote NDP on Election Day, or that people who were previously going to vote Liberal will now swing the NDP's way after Kathleen Wynn's concession last weekend. Mark Carcasole, Global News.